Where we are in DC, just to kind of orient you guys, like I said, you got RFK over there. Just south of us where the Navy Yard is going to be, or Pennsylvania Avenue Bridge, further south of Anacostia Park, everywhere, Old Town Anacostia. It's further down the river that way. We're heading up the river this way. Again, like I said, this is the more natural part of the river, so this is more how the river should look if it was a more natural system, not running through DC. But there is still some construction, some concrete, stuff like that you may see, but a little bit less. This is where more of the wildlife likes to hang out. This is where more of the ospreys, bald eagles, herons, cranes, all of them like to hang out a little bit more. So where we are right now, dead ahead of us, we're going to be going upriver. As we went under that bridge, you guys noticed you kind of had to duck your heads. That's because the Anacostia is tidal, so we do have tides like the ocean. We are close enough to the ocean that those tides do come up the river. So right now we are at about a high tide right now. So the water does get much lower than this. So this morning the water is about 2 feet lower, or 1.5 feet lower than it is right now. So the water does go up and down, exposing certain parts of the river or covering up certain parts of the river. This little entranceway over here to our left where this concrete gate is, that's actually the start of Kingman Island. So Kingman Island here in DC starts right there on our left where the nice fall colors are. Continues around all the way up the river. This is Kingman Lake right here to our left. So this is the entrance to Kingman Lake. Not so much a lake because it does have entrances on either side, but this is the entrance to Kingman Lake right there. Directly over here on our left, this nice construction and everything like here. Like I said, we have old RFK where the Redskins used to play. Then the DC United used to play, Nationals used to play. Now no one plays there. They're going to take that down eventually, I believe, relatively soon. So this construction you see over here, this is all building new infrastructure and everything like that for specifically to help the Anacostia River, to help any pollution or anything like that from coming into the river. So that's what this construction is going on right here to the left. This will be gone in the next couple of years because all that construction will be done, thankfully. Over here on the right, you will see this little wall that is along the river. That is a seawall that it was put there kind of over the years, the earlier 1900s. So that continues along the whole length of the Anacostia River. Over there on our left, you're going to see some cormorants. Those little black birds that are sitting on top of that log over there. See about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. Those are called double-crested cormorants. Those are here year-round. They eat small little fish. So they're the type of birds that'll dive down into the water and catch little fish and then swim back up. So you can see them swimming on. They don't really sit on top of the water. They sit more kind of low down on the water. And you may see them kind of go upside down and then go down into the water to go look for fish and stuff like that. It's kind of funny, the reason they're sitting on top of those logs is they don't have any oil on their feathers. So the reason birds have oil on their feathers is to keep them waterproof. Wouldn't be necessarily the best for them to be waterproof and try and dive down. It'd be like trying to go down in a pool with a life vest on. It doesn't really work out. So they don't have any oil on their feathers, which kind of causes them to get waterlogged. It's like if you threw a sponge in the water, they kind of soak up all that water. So whenever they take off really, really low to the ground because they can't quite achieve enough lift to get up like normal birds. So that's why they sit on top of those logs, is to dry their feathers out, to dry themselves out, to sun themselves basically. So you may see them sitting on the side of logs with their wings out, kind of like the Batman symbol. And that's just them drying themselves out because they need to get all that water off them. Over here on the right is a little sandbar island. This is actually where some of the fox in the river come. So the river's a little high right now, so the fox are probably back in their dens. But this is one of the areas where a little family of fox in DC actually come out right here. I saw them 2 days ago on a lower tide. So this area all pretty much right here is a big sandbar. And they come out onto the sandbar on a low tide and kind of look for stuff to eat or anything like that. So we do have an abundance of wildlife on the river. We have fox, we have beaver, we have groundhogs, we have river otters, we have deer, we have turkey, we have bald eagles, we have ospreys or seahawks. We have all different kinds of ducks. In the wintertime, in the fall time, like right now, we get a bunch of ducks that come down to the Anacostia River. Because if the ducks are flying south for the winter, they like to stop and use the Anacostia kind of like a rest stop. So they can stop here in the warmer water, kind of continue to go down the river, and then continue to go down a little bit further south. So we do have a lot of ducks that come here around this time or in the winter time. Over here on our left, you see this nice wall, that hiding behind that nice wall are these nice plants that are in the river. These are called wetlands, so we like these wetlands. These are actually been built by the Army Corps of Engineers, so the Army actually helped build these in the earlier 2000s. These wetlands are really, really good. Anyone know why wetlands are good? Why would a bunch of grass in the water be good?
Oxygen,
helps bring oxygen into the water. Birds like to eat some of the seeds on the plants. Birds also nest in some of these plants. They also provide habitat for small juvenile fish. So if you're a really small fish, do you want to be in the big part of the water with all the big catfish, or do you want to be hiding out in the reeds up there? So it provides some habitat for some small juvenile fish to grow really big, so they can kind of defend themselves when they get out to the larger part of the river. They also provide filtering for the water, so instead of all that trash or all the sediment coming into the water, it runs into the wetlands and gets trapped, basically like a big net. So it provides filtration for the water. So we like our wetlands here in the Anacostia. We wish we had a little bit more. We're hopefully going to build a few more, plant a few more. So we have these wetlands over here to our left. We also have the wetlands dead ahead of us at the Benning Road Bridge, or actually the East Capitol Street Bridge. So that's the East Capitol Street Bridge right there, and then the Benning Road Bridge.
Which ones are fragmites? Is this
The fragment, yeah, the stuff all the way to the right. So the really green stuff.
Yeah, we got that in Pope Ranch, unfortunately.
So that stuff all the way to the green that I was talking about, that's called a plant called Phragmites. So kind of like fragmentation. Phragmites, it's not really native to this Anacostia area. You can see it's really, really tall and kind of frondy and blowing back and forth. So a lot of our native plants that we really, really like in our rivers and our ecosystems, they're pretty small. So plants need sunlight. So if you have another plant that's kind of shading over those other plants, they can't get too much sunlight. So that's why we don't like a lot of these plants in our rivers. Some is fine, but too much of them can kind of overbear or smother some of our nice native plants. Because we do have really nice native plants like wild rice, cattails, that kind of thing, here on the Anacostia River. So those are the plants that we like to plant because they provide food for our birds, habitat for our fish, and everything like that.
So cattail is not invasive?
No, cattails from here. Yeah. And
So how did those plants get there?
So kind of a mixture. So those plants are back when, we'll call it like 20 years ago, when along the East Coast people were very much into building a lot of wetlands because they're like wetlands will prevent a lot of stuff. And when you want to build a wetland, Phragmites is really good because it grows big and fast and wide and spreads everywhere. But if you want to build a natural, more native wetland, how it should be, that's not the best. So I think they came in, some of those seeds came in probably from some other plants that were just brought over when they were trying to plant them there. And then some were either in the seed bank or in the river, or they just kind of came here over time. I don't know if they specifically planted them, they may have. It looks like they planted a smaller section over there. But when you're trying to establish a wetland, they're good. Now we know a little bit more, so we try and plant more of our native vegetation. So there's not too much of that Phragmites here. There's a little bit of it there, but there's not too much of it, thankfully. As you can see, they're doing a little bit of construction here on this East Capitol Street Bridge. This graffiti over here on the right, the CRC, that's actually the Capitol Rowing Club. So that little thing below there is actually meant to be a rowing oar. So a lot of the rowing teams come up to this upper part of the river. Not too many larger boats come to this upper part of the river. We really like our boats, kayaks, those kinds of things.
So why did they tag that, the rowing club?
It's just, they tag the bridges that they go under. It's just a fun thing they do. There's another bridge, the 50
So that's
bridge.
allowed?
Apparently. That's been there for a while.
Okay.
Like Catholic University rows out of the Anacostia Community Boathouse, which was that white building directly across, which was directly across from Anacostia Park there. And they row all the way up and down and up and down. Some of them row out of Bladensburg up in Maryland, where the Anacostia actually ends. And so they've actually have a big Catholic University Cardinal that's on the 50 bridge where New York Avenue crosses over.
My alma mater has a tag too.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. It's one of those things. It's not really hurting anyone, and it's not kind of thing, so it's not impacting the river.
I think they're doing a lot of graffiti and
Yeah. Because there's some on here. And it's one of those things where the only time you really see it is if you're on the river. There's not too many people in this upper part of the river who are coming here besides the rowing clubs or groups like ours, or maybe DC's Office of Energy and Environment. There's some ducks right there. Oh, there's some mallards.
Husband and
The
wife.
male has the green head, the female has the brown head.
Husband and wife. You make his bride.
He's chasing.
More mallards over there. Typically in the bird world, the males are going to have the bright colors and the big feathers and everything like that. Yep.
That's the bait.
So whenever you watch
That's hilarious.
whenever you watch Discovery Channel or something like that,
Yeah.
those birds who are doing the dances or have the big bright colors, those are all the males. They gotta impress the female. They gotta put on a show. This is still Kingman Island over here to our left. So you kind of notice how high the tide can get by some of the dirt on the lower leaves hanging over. So when we turn around, we'll be going down, kind of hopefully going to avoid the actual peak high tide of the day. Because like I said, we are tidal here. We are also fresh water here. There's no salt water in the Anacostia, so all the fish, all the animals, everything like that are animals that are meant to be in fresh water and everything. If it was low tide, you see a little bit more dirt on this side of the river, on the left side of the river where Kingman Island is. So we got some trees overhanging, we got some plants overhanging, we got maybe some other stuff, some dead trees, some vines. What else do you guys see on the left side of the river? What about that?
Oh, trash.
Trash. So in this upper part of the river, we do see a little bit more trash just because the river moves a little bit slower. It's got a few more stuff to kind of reach out of the side of the river and grab trash and trap the trash. Unfortunately, that's because we are the Anacostia River. What city does the Anacostia River flow through? Washington, D.C. We flow through the nation's capital. So we are an urban river, it's called. We are a river that flows through a city. And most of our drainage area, so most of the area where the water from the Anacostia River comes from, most of this water comes from Prince George's County and Montgomery County. But 85% of the water from this whole Anacostia actually comes from those two counties. So we do receive a decent amount of trash and stuff from the upper part of the watershed, it's called, or the upper part of the basin, or the upper part of where the rain falls in the Anacostia. So we do receive some of that from there. But DC and Maryland actively is doing stuff to hopefully prevent a lot of the trash from coming into the river. So you may see a little bit of trash, but hopefully that's going to dwindle and go down and down and down as we implement more of these programs. So
And
It's a
picnic
picnic
tables.
area.
picnic
back
tables,
there.
yeah.
That's the first time I've ever seen them.
Wow.
Really? Yeah, Kingman Island's starting to install, not really install, but have a few more of those to encourage more people to actually kind of picnic over there, I'll say.
So how do you get over
So
there?
on parking lot 6, it's called at RFK. You
RFK.
can, or you can go along the Anacostia Riverwalk Trail. You can
You know
actually,
where Langston is, right?
yeah,
right across
that's
the
it,
street.
yeah. And so you can go on Benning Road right here, and then come back. There's a parking lot right there, and there's a trail. So there's actually, if you go in, you go across what's called Heritage Island, which is a little bit smaller island next to Kingman Island, and you'll go over a little nice big Kingman Lake, which has a bunch of marshes and wetlands and stuff like that. Really good picture opportunities, bird watching. And then you'll go up into Kingman Island. They have a bunch of trails and stuff like that.
Did you just get me?
Which is also nice in May or June time if you're looking for a nice event to go to. They have the Kingman Island Bluegrass Festival, which is a totally local DC event where they have local DC bands, beer, food, and stuff like that. They basically shut down the island and throw a big party for kids of all ages, people of all ages. It's a really fun event.
real nice.
Yeah.
Well, in June?
In like May or June. It's
May.
beginning of summer typically. Because Living Classrooms is a group similar to ours who runs and operates Kingman Island. They kind of protect it and oversee it and everything like that. So Kingman Island actually was DC's first wilderness conservation area. So it's basically being prevented from any development or anything like that. So they're just going to keep it as a pristine area for education. Let kids of DC, let kids from the area come down here and actually experience wilderness, wildlife, environmental education,
Nice.
Anacostia education, to actually be able to see what the river would look like in a more pristine area, in a more pristine environment without so much development. They're going to build this really cool education center on Kingman Island as well. That's going to be all environmentally focused, where schools can have field trips to it and everything like that. It's all going to be passively heated and passively cooled. It's going to be like this big, very sustainable green building. It's going to be very, very cool, and they're all just going to keep it. They're planting a lot of native plants here, a lot of native meadows, because meadows are really good for the Anacostia because they encourage pollinators, they encourage butterflies, bees, everything like that, which spread a lot of our native plants around this area.
Wonderful.
So it's a very cool island. It actually does stretch from here, from where we entered in, all the way down to Benning Road, and then past Benning Road, where Langston Golf Course kind of runs a little bit on it. It ends pretty much at that 13th hole right at Langston.
So
yeah.
when is the center, the education?
I think in the next couple years, call it like 3 or 5 years, I think.
Okay.
They just finished the plans and the permitting and stuff like that. I think they're
Nice.
finally going to start getting actually construction on it.
That's gonna be
Little duck over
awesome.
there, having a little spat. So the tide's a little bit too high right now, but usually turtles like to sit on this right side of the river. They sit on top of the logs. Do you guys think we have any alligators in the Anacostia?
No.
No.
We do not have any alligators in the Anacostia. Mostly because we would. If we were a little bit further south and the water got a little bit warmer in the wintertime, the water's just a little too cold in the wintertime to allow alligators to want to stay here. Why wouldn't alligators want to stay here in the wintertime? Are they cold-blooded or warm-blooded? They're cold-blooded, so they can't regulate their body temperatures. So when they sit out in the sun, that's how they get warm, and when they get into the water, that's how they get cool. So they basically don't have any of our human regulation of our body temperatures. So that's why alligators aren't up here, because in the wintertime, they wouldn't be able to get out and receive enough warmth to maintain their body functions. We still do have turtles, though. Turtles are cold-blooded, but they can kind of withstand a little bit more cold down here. So alligators aren't too much in the Anacostia. Although if we were a little bit further south, like I said, maybe in North Carolina, maybe in South Carolina, we may have some alligators if we were a river down there. But alas, we are not. We are in D.C.
So DC charges 5 cents for a bag, right?
They do charge 5 cents for a bag.
And it's supposed to help clean up.
Do you know where would you guess that money goes to?
The system that you said they use to capture the trash?
Some of it does go to that, actually. Also, these boat tours right here.
Oh, really?
So that 5 cents basically does go into a big trust of money specifically devoted to the Anacostia River. Okay. And so they go to projects like this, like these boat tours are all free, provided by us, Anacostia Watershed Society, which is a similar group, to provide boat tours for DC residents, visitors alike, everyone around the area who just wants to come experience the river. And also for other programs for water quality monitoring, trash, or anything like that.
I'm glad you told me. I
so
won't feel so bad to pay 5 cents now. I'll be happy.
I always like to tell people, sometimes people ask, because they ask that same question, they're like, oh, I just didn't know where that money went. I thought it just went into like the space and something like that. But that money does go specifically to the Anacostia. Because 10 years ago, so that law or that policy was enacted around 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, the number one source of trash on the Anacostia River was plastic bags. They were all over the place. Now, 10 years later, one of the last sources, minus that plastic bag right there, one of the last sources of trash we really see, that's right there. That's the second plastic bag I've seen today, and I keep telling this. Now one of the last sources of trash we actually see on the river is plastic bags. So if you ever get kind of upset with environmental laws and think they don't do anything, they can do things on a smaller district level, also on a federal level, but they have to be a little bit more complex. But on a district or state level, they are actually working very, very well, specifically on the Anacostia especially. So we don't see as many of those. Okay. We are seeing more plastic bottles, as you've probably seen. Plastic bottles now are the number one source of trash that we typically see on the Anacostia, both by volume and weight, just because they take up a lot of space. But we are actively working to reduce the plastic bottles. People have been throwing around passing a plastic bottle fee or something like that to prevent people from too many plastic bottles. Because plastic bottles obviously aren't great for our ecosystem, for our wildlife. They're ugly to look at in the water. They can also break down into smaller pieces of plastic, which can get caught in birds' smells, can get caught in fishes' bodies, everything like that. They're not great for the ecosystem. So we don't want too much trash. Besides being visual pollution and that it looks ugly, it can also impact ecosystems and stuff like that.
Yeah, I read something where humans are consuming a lot of plastic.
Yeah, so I mean the microplastics and stuff that breaks down. So those plastics, instead of dissolving in the water when they break down, they just basically turn into smaller plastic bottles, essentially just smaller. And to the point where they're not like the size of like a little plankton or something like that. And then fish eat them, smaller animals eat them. And then humans are basically they can come from the air, they can come from water bottles. So that's a big point of research right now. We actually did some studies on the Anacostia River people did, to test for them, down on the Anacostia. So we kind of took that to the DC government and said, hey, we have this issue. So now kind of they're actively thinking about issues as well. So that's one of the good things about our organization, is that we are not a government organization. We're our own separate nonprofit, so we can kind of not do whatever we want, but we do anything that helps protect the river. So anything that's harming the river, we're going to help fight. So that's kind of one. We're in a special position to do kind of anything we need to help protect the river. We're not constrained by government regulations.
And their group is also our title sponsor for my cleanup in my community downriver in Ward 7. We'll clean up twice a year, one on MLK Day and one on Earth Day in April. And Anacostia Riverkeeper is our sponsor. And they are very close friends of mine. They've taught me a lot about the river and the ecosystem. And as a result of my affiliation with the environmental groups I extend that invitation to you all
Thank you.
to enjoy what I see every day.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that you all benefit from it, learn from it, bring your friends and family and be a part of this, and come out and be a part of the parks and the water.
So you said you clicked on MLK Day? You mean January? In January?
In January,
It gets a little chilly.
Anacostia Riverkeeper is a sponsor of ours for a big event. We have almost 250 people.
Last year we had, I think we had like 300 something.
About
Wow.
300 people. We have,
We collected
yeah.
like 7,000 pounds.
What you? How you do
10,000
it?
pounds of trash.
What you do? You use a.
We do a cleanup in a park and in a community.
Oh,
On the
okay,
streets
okay,
in the park.
got you,
We,
got you.
we take the trash, we collect it all, we measure it so we can see how much trash we have. One year when they first came in 2014, 2015, we collected 11,000 pounds of trash.
Oh my
With
goodness.
their
And Ward 7.
in Ward 7.
So
Just in
what
my-
areas you cover in Ward
Minnesota
7?
Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue, and all the way up to Randall Circle.
11,000 pounds.
11,000, and all the way east
Wow.
into DuPont Park.
Wow.
We're in the woods and everything.
And it's all along Pope Branch, which is a tributary that can flow into the
Right.
Anacostia. So a lot of the trash that comes into the river doesn't come from people just throwing it in the river. It just comes from, say, someone misses the trash can on the street with a bottle, or dumps a plastic bag in Pope Branch Park or anything like that, and then it can wash via rain into the tributary and then into the river that way. So if we can stop a lot of the trash from coming into the river at the upstream parts or in the parks or the tributaries or anything like that,
You
we
can
can stop
keep
it
the
from actually
water.
coming in.
And I've been doing this for 20 years.
What?
Since I've been with the first team, I've been doing this is our 4th year, I think. So, we're kind of working together to be a part. LPGA-USGA Girls Golf. I wanted to bring girls out because I want girls to be a part of this and see. I mean, everyone could be a part of this at any time.
Mhm.
So let your families know it's not just for girls, it's for everyone. But I'm inviting you all as a part of our LPGA group so that you can get a first knowledge of this and then share this with your friends
Yes,
and family.
ma'am. Yes. Broaden the horizon. Thank you. And thank you. This is really good. You want to help clean up?
Like I said, this is the end of Kingman Island right here. So if you're to kayak back up that lake, you go in the summertime. Ospreys, bald eagles, rainbow herons, egrets, birds. You can't have a lot of birds up there. Those have a lot of fish that come up there too. There are a lot of good fish in the Anacostia. We've got a lot of catfish. Catfish. And fish can get pretty big in the Anacostia. I'll give a tour. Last year, and a guy was fishing right here at the edge of the CSX bridge. The train. You're not really supposed to fish there, but you can fish there anyways. He was waving at my boat. I was on a boat like this with some kids, and he was waving at us, and I was wondering why he was waving at us. He starts pulling this rope up out of the river, and I was like, why is he pulling this rope out of the river? He pulls a blue catfish out of the river he was around my height, and he held it up to his chin. It was from his chin to his shins about.
Whoa.
So it was around a 3-4 foot catfish that was around this big. So there are some pretty big catfish that can be in the river. We have some striped bass that can come up here. There's shad, which is actually DC's state fish. Shad's like a East Coast salmon. They're actually born in the rivers, and they swim out to the bay, and then they grow big, and then they come back into the rivers. That's a great blue heron right there. Oh, there he is. So like I said, they're semi-residents in this area. They'll be here mostly year-round.
So when do eagles normally?
Eagles are here year-round, but usually when they come out to the river, it's usually morning and night, or like dusk and dawn-ish area. No, that's a cormorant. That's a cormorant, I think. Yeah. They didn't have any juveniles. There's not any juveniles around. Most of the bald eagles and the cormorants are the same. The bald eagles are usually sit in that tent further out that way.
Yeah.
They do like to hunt in this stretch of the river, I've noticed. We typically see them in the summertime. The ospreys are the ones who actually like dive down and like catch the fish, like you'd see on like the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
Bald eagles are actually scavengers for the most part. They'll just steal fish. They're lazy. They go in and they like see someone else with a big catfish. They're just so much bigger that they just fly in and just take they just take it. And they're kind of like, what are you doing? They're like, I'm bigger than you. And they just take this catfish. So that's typically what bald eagles like to do. So they'll sit on this stretch of the river right here. This is where ospreys like to hunt them a lot too. The ospreys left around August time. I think that's when I saw them for the most part. But I saw the most ospreys I've ever seen on the Anacostia this year in a while. There was different,
Quite a few?
Yeah, there was different families with different nests all down the river, more towards the Navy Yard. They were all over the place.
We're at East Potomac Park also.
Yeah. Then whenever I was golfing there, I always saw them like flying over and stuff like that.